What's up, y'all? It's another community call with the Azure Developer CLI team. I'm going to bring my pal Grace on. Hey, Grace. Are you muted? Yep, I cannot hear you. It's been 3 years of remote work, and I feel like I'm still sometimes figuring it out. I swear I just heard you now. Maybe.
Can you
Yes.
hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, amazing.
We're just trying to make this as relatable as possible for everything. We're just like you. We all struggle with our remote setups. I just reorganized my desk and had an existential crisis about having to replug everything in. So
I was going to say, as relating to your desk relocation, I love that your little dumpster fire figure is just on screen. It's quite perfect.
It's really cute. I got it when I was working on my last team, and it was like an unofficial mascot, which sounds bad. The product is really good, I swear. It's really cute. Cool. So we have this was a big release, y'all. There's a lot of really awesome stuff that went to release. So I'm really excited to bring folks on and chat about it. I'm gonna do a little screen share moment here. But yeah, so we had our last monthly release. What was that? I guess last Wednesday or Thursday.
Last Thursday.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some really cool stuff that I think some folks have been waiting for. So first up, we got some demos. We're gonna, I guess, talk about this should be what's new in March, not what's new in February.
Sure.
That's but we've got new Azure Kubernetes service support. We did some big updates to VS Code that we're gonna walk through. We're finishing our quest of simplifying all the dependencies so you can just get up and running with AZD with minimal to no installation stuff. Then also we have a really amazing demo around a bring your own data ChatGPT template that's sort of blowing up on GitHub right now. So really excited to walk you through that, and then we're gonna finish up with kind of informal Q&A as per usual, roundtable, whatever's top of mind. Just let us know. We got AZD team members in the chat. We got people on stream. So let's jump into it. So if you're new here, you've never been to an AZD community call, this is our team. We've got people in product management, UX design, user research. We've got a lot of engineers working on this, lots of great work being done across the board. But if you see some of these folks on the call today, or you see them on GitHub or on Twitter, say hi. And yeah, cool. So yeah, just quick overview. I'm not going to read through most of this because a lot of the features that we added are actually going to be demoed later on in the call. So we've got some big updates there. We had a couple of bug fixes. So I think we did some updates around pipeline config. Now we had a bug around the CI/CD provider in Azure YAML, some login stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's not super fun to read through this stuff, but I think it is captured in the blog or release notes. And if you're interested, the GitHub issues are linked there. They're also in the release notes and the releases page on the Azure Dev GitHub repo. Cool. I feel like we just need to get straight into demos.
I think so.
That's what we want to give the people what they want, First up, it's a big one. We're gonna say hi to Wallace again. I think people might be familiar with Wallace.
Hey everybody.
He was here last month, I think. I think you're here every month now. You're like a
Yes, I'm a recurring person.
Cool. All right, well, I'll hand it over to you, and I'll switch screens whenever you tell me.
Sounds good. Yeah, so thanks everybody. So we're excited to release our initial preview of AKS support for AZD. And this is just one of many AKS features to come. We have a whole backlog of stuff that's coming at a later date, but this initial support that we're offering today basically allows you to bring your own Kubernetes manifests and get those deployed out into Azure, really quickly using AZD. And if we could just switch over to the demo now, I'll just jump right in and kind of show you what we have here. So along with the release of the new AKS support, we're also shipping a new template just to make that onboarding experience that much easier. So I'll be using this template today to kind of show you this walkthrough. So it's an Azure samples like all of our other ones, and it's the to-do Node.js Mongo AKS template. So I already have this cloned locally on my machine, so I'm just gonna jump over to VS Code and show you what that looks like. And if you've used any of our other kind of to-do samples, this one looks very, very similar here. The only changes that you're going to really see here is that we have two microservices, if you will, within this template. And all we're going to do is specify that the host for both of these services is going to be AKS. So that's the only change that you would have to do on the Azure YAML side to get the AKS support. Also shipping with this as part of our Bicep core modules, we have a new
Hey, Wallace.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're getting a request from John to zoom and enhance. Can we zoom and enhance?
I did already, but I will zoom and enhance a little bit more for everybody.
Sometimes it's like you got to zoom in like 175%.
You want me to go one more, or is that good?
I don't know. I mean, it looks clear to me, but I'm also looking at it on a
All right,
smaller
we'll go one
Oh,
more
yeah.
for John.
I can read it, so I'm assuming
Okay.
John can read it now too.
Sounds good. All right. So, as I was saying, we got this new AKS type within the host. And along with this, we have a new Bicep core module as well. So, if we just look at our infra folder here, and let's just look at main.bicep. And here we have a great module. All we have to do is specify our AKS module here. We have a lot of intelligent defaults set up. You just have to basically tell us, what's the location, what do you want to name it, and then linkages back to some of the other resources that we already have within the application, like the container registry that we're going to push our containers to, log analytics, Key Vault for integration from the Key Vault side for all of your secrets. And there's a bunch of other stuff that you can configure on here if you want. If you want to customize your node pools or have additional scaling configuration, you could definitely go ahead and set those in here, but we're not going to dive into that today. So before today's call, I went ahead and provisioned this new template. And let me just zoom in maybe a couple more times for everybody here. And so here we went ahead and deployed our cluster, maybe one more, there we go. And so we can see we have all the other resources that we've seen before with some of our demos, and now we have this new AKS managed cluster that's also deployed as part of our template. And if we want to take a look at that, we'll just jump over to Azure really quickly, and we can see within our resource group, we have all of our resources as well as this new AKS Kubernetes service. So we could click into that. We'll see what that does in just a minute here. And so while we're waiting, I'm just going to go and do a AZD deploy to get our app code deployed out there to our cluster. And so everything that AZD is doing for us here, number one, when we're installing all of your app code dependencies, we're doing your app build. This is also doing your Docker build behind the scene to generate your Docker images. During this time, we're also going to be pushing those images. And in addition to pushing the images to the container registry, we're also going to be pushing all of the Kubernetes manifests. So let me just jump over to VS Code and show you where you would define those within your template here. So every project, if we just go back to the Azure YAML, let's use the API project as our reference here. So our project is set to be in source API. So if we just go in source API, the default location where you would put your Kubernetes manifest is in this manifest folder. And you could define any Kubernetes resource that is available. In this particular demo, we have a deployment which has all of your containers that are going to be in here, your scaling for those containers. Just ignore all these warning lines. Environment configuration that you have here, and this is pulling things directly from Azure Key Vault. We also have services that we're exposing on a cluster IP in this case for people who are familiar with the Kubernetes services, and then we also are exposing a ingress as well, so that we could expose this service out over the internet. So this is all leveraging a AKS plugin called the Web App Routing plugin, or it's in preview right now. And it basically uses the Nginx ingress controller behind the scenes to do all the Kubernetes ingress magic there for you. And we just have some routes specified here so that we could host both the web and the API off of a single endpoint. And all of the API calls will be in a /API folder. So if we jump over to the web side as well, you'll see we have manifest there. And again, we have a deployment, a service, and an ingress set up. And okay, let's see how our deployment's going. All right, so our deployment is done. So we can see we deployed service web. Just like all of our other service targets that we support in Azure, we get the endpoints for our service. Kubernetes is kind of one of those special snowflakes here. So there's a bunch of ways that you could access this, whether you're internal to your cluster, external to your ingress. So we just went ahead and we exposed all of them. So here you see this is a internal IP in the cluster, but also we're showing the external IP address for the ingress that was configured for this service as well. And same thing for the API. And you can see this one is going to /API. So it's reading that ingress configuration that we have and showing that for us. So let's just jump over into this VM that I have set up and go to that IP address ending in 251. And now we have our to-do app that we all know and love by this point. And we can say, hello, AZD community. And we have a working application. So let's just take one more look at the Azure portal here. And if we're diving into our AKS Kubernetes resource, we'll see workloads that are running on here. And one of the things that we do default in AZD is we deploy all of your services into a namespace as well. By default, it'll use the project name as your namespace, but there's also ways to override that within the azure.yaml. So here we have our to-do Node.js Mongo AKS namespace here. So you have two workloads, which basically matches the deployment.yamls that I showed you a little bit earlier. We have, again, services, one for web and one for API that we showed as well. And the name of the services, all of that is configurable through the azure.yaml. But again, we just have defaults that'll use for you just to make it that much easier. And then again, the ingresses that we expose as well. Let's see. And if we just jump over to configuration, you'll also see there is a secret that is automatically provisioned for you that maps to your basically your Azure environment file, and then you could reference those secrets either through there or through the Key Vault integration. Let's see. So that's kind of the initial release of AKS. We have a bunch of things in the backlog, as I mentioned earlier, things such as support for Helm, support for Customize, how to do GitOps with AKS through AZD. And also, some other, templates coming up as well. If you wanted to do everything cloud native and use like Prometheus and Grafana in the back end and use different ingress controllers, we'll have a template to kind of show you what that might look like as well. Any questions from the team before we move on?
No, I was going to ask you, or I was going to bring up that we support manifests that can be deployed with kubectl today, but we plan on doing others in the future. But then if you're new to AZD templates and you're like, cool, Wallace, you showed me a to-do app. What if I don't care about the to-do app, right? Like the premise here is that like you can rip out the to-do part and replace it with whatever your app is. We just include the to-do part so that there's something when you look at this template, you know that it works and it gives you a good kind of frame of reference for what the template can produce. But we are totally extensible, customizable. Make them your own. This is like a blueprint or like a cloud recipe, if you will.
Exactly. You could go as simple or as advanced as you want within the Kubernetes deployment, as long as that you can specify it as a Kubernetes manifest. You can go ahead and do that. If you want to even go a little bit further beyond, you could use some of the hooks features that we introduced last release, and specify kind of like post provision or post deploy hooks, even make additional customizations to your server. So that's all available as well. One of the things that we do as part of the deployment is we automatically configure your kubectl context as well, and we add a new context. We default into that context. So any additional kubectl commands that you want to run kind of post deployment, they're there for you, already connected to your cluster, and you're kind of up and running.
Yeah, and Christian has a question in the chat around whether or not you can use Terraform as the IAC provider, or do we only support Bicep for Kubernetes?
You could definitely use Terraform. We don't have a template right now that has Terraform as the IAC provider, but if you're a Terraform guy and you want to write that, it's totally supported.
Sweet. All right. Any other questions about our new AKS support? This one was a long time coming, folks. So lots of good stuff to come in the future too. Going once, going twice. Well, we'll bring Wallace back at the end if you think of something. But yeah, thanks, Wallace.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
All right, see you later. All righty, let's jump back to our deck. And what's up next? And Grace is going to talk to us a bit about this one.
Yeah, this is my first time talking about something like this in the community calls. So this is something that one of our engineers, Brandon, has worked on for this release, but it is the getting started guide for the AZD extension in VS Code, or getting started guide. I guess I should call it a walkthrough. I think that's what they're called in VS Code. But yeah, basically the same thing. But so there are a few different ways that you might like interact with this. Like if you already have like your template, or like your app is already configured to work with AZD, like it's just gonna like show you how you can provision and deploy your app. And then also it can detect like if a user has AZD but they don't have a template, it can like walk them through some of the steps of how they can get like a AZD template ready on their machine and get up and started with it. We're not going to demo the walkthrough because, as Brandon mentioned to me earlier, it's kind of the walkthrough is the demo, and you can demo it to yourself with adding the AZD extension on VS Code and getting started with this walkthrough.
Yeah, and we wanted to kind of increase the discoverability of the ability to be able to one-click provision and deploy an AZD template in VS Code. And so trying to make, if you author a template, make it easy for people, your users to find and use that template. So yeah, if you use this or you have feedback on it, or you think there's something we could improve here, let us know. Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So I actually think I'm going to switch to VS Code to talk about this one. So I'm going to stop presenting this and I'm going to re-present. Let's try and do this without like sharing my whole life on the internet. Can I do this? Where's VS Code? Why can't I see you? Let's just do this. Window. Okay, nope, this one. I think there we go. I'm going to zoom and enhance like 1 million times like Wallace did. Okay, so basically the thing I want to show here is, so I think if you've used an AZD template before or an AZD compatible project, you're familiar with our Azure YAML, which hosts kind of all of the project metadata, says like, where the project code lives, what language, what host, etc. And that's great. But we added this new feature in VS Code. So if you have the latest version of the Azure Developer CLI extension in VS Code, as well as the Azure Resources extension, we render this new application tree view for your particular app. So trying to basically make it so that you can tie your environments to the application context, as opposed to just kind of having these raw resource groups that you kind of have to jump around to. And so the new thing here is like, you'll notice that we have this application node, which matches my Azure YAML name. I have services, which correspond to the 2 services in my Azure YAML. And I have a single environment, but you could have multiple environments. So the cool part about this is that I can kind of visualize and understand my application, but I also, if I right click on any one of these nodes, it has contextual AZD commands attached to them. So on the application node, you'll see application relevant commands. On the services, you'll see like restore app dependencies. On environments, you'll see those like environment relevant commands. And then if you were to right click on show Azure resource group, it would automatically jump you to the relevant resource group in the resources pane above. So just trying to make that a little bit easier to manage, especially if you have a project with multiple environments. Jumping between resource groups is kind of gnarly. So kind of having these all in one place, super nice. Also, there's cute little buttons where you can click up and down or monitor. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So again, you need to have the AZD extension 0.4.0 or later, and the Azure Resources extension 0.6.0 or later to get this view rendered. I'm pretty excited about this. I feel like this is a really nice addition to the VS Code experience. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Between that and the walkthrough, those are kind of the two big updates for VS Code this month. If you don't have the AZD binary installed, but you have the Azure Developer CLI extension, we also now have the ability to either install it through the command palette, or you might see a little pop-up that says, hey, you don't have the binary, you can't do this thing yet. So trying to make that experience also a little bit more streamlined. But yeah, that's pretty much it for VS Code. Let's let me, because I'm screen sharing like a deck and then my VS Code window. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. If you have any questions about either of the VS Code updates, let us know. Happy to answer questions. Again, if there's anything you'd like to see in VS Code, also let us know. We're going to be working on trying to make that experience a little bit more value add in the future. So yeah, would love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. I went through that pretty quickly. All right. We're going to bring on a friend. I don't know if we've ever had Victor.
I think Victor joined in January, if I remember correctly. But Victor, you can
maybe. No, I don't think so. It used to be very, very early in the morning. So I think
Oh yeah.
for us though, it was anyway, it feels good to be here. Thank you.
yeah, welcome. Okay, Victor, tell us about GitHub CLI.
Yeah, so this is a nice improvement because we are reducing the number of things that you have to pre-install in order to use ACD, right? So in the past, users will need to install the GitHub CLI before being able to run ACD config pipeline. I can, I guess, share my screen very quickly and see what happened. And I'm going to make this even bigger. So very quick demonstration on this Linux machine. I don't have the GitHub CLI. If I type git gh, there is not recognized. So I'm going to call ACD init over here. This will let me choose one of the templates. I'll just go with Java Mongo. It's anyone is fine. I'll give a name, subscription, and location.
The classic, it takes long because you're sharing the screen.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. Okay,
Yeah.
so I have my environment initialized, and now I'm going to run ACD pipeline config. In the past, running this without having the GitHub CLI will just fail. Now you can see that we just get the CLI directly, and now this output that we are getting is coming directly from the GitHub CLI, telling me that I need to log in to GitHub CLI in order to continue. So no context switching. I can just click yes over here, do my login, and the ACD pipeline config will just continue to create the, if I want to create a new repository or use an existing one to create my pipeline and trigger it from there. So we have seen how this flow works. So I'll just stop here and as the end of the demo, because the main thing is that we didn't have to install the GitHub CLI. If I finish this process and do GitHub GH again, you see that the command is still not installed in the system. So the command is only known in the scope and installed in the scope of ACD for the use of ACD, and that's it.
Sweet. Really short and simple, but we're trying to make the getting started really short and simple. So yeah. Okay. Any questions for Victor about kind of that dependency update? That's pretty much the gist.
Not so much a question, but I think this means that we have one prereq for AZD remaining, right? Like you only have one thing that you need to have installed before installing AZD. Is that right?
You just need Git.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome.
Which I think most people, like if you're writing code, I feel like these days everyone's using Git anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and say that we don't really have any dependency.
If I can make a future projection or bet, personal, I believe that it won't take longer until Windows will by default include Git, but that's at least on some kind of developer instance or something. I don't know. That's because on any Linux you get Git by default. So
yeah,
I don't know why.
installed Git. So yeah, cool. All right, that's about it. Finally, oh yeah, I should say goodbye to you before like that was kind of rude.
You just vanished.
Yeah, bye, Victor. No, sorry, man. Okay, cool. Let's bring. Oh yeah. All right, we have a special guest today to talk about this new ChatGPT Enterprise template that's been blowing up on GitHub. I think it's got like 370 stars now.
Yeah, it's been super popular. And Savannah and Grace, thanks for having me on the community call. And yeah, so just as an introduction, I'm Liam Kavanagh. I am the group product manager for one of the Azure services called Azure Cognitive Search. And basically, I'll say you saved us. We found an incredible amount of interest in what I'll show you in this demonstration. Basically, what we've done. And do you mind if we switch over to the demo, Savannah?
Yeah, I will.
Screen share, if you don't mind. So to give you a little context on what we did is when ChatGPT came out, I'm sure you're all very aware and you've heard about this, is that there's a lot of interest in this, and people wanted to build that type of an experience over their data. And as a product that enables search, we thought that it would be really great if we could actually combine the abilities of ChatGPT, which we have available in our Azure OpenAI service, with cognitive search, so that you could actually build out that experience. And so what we did is we put together a demonstration, a walkthrough that actually enables customers to really deploy and actually see all of these things. And as you can see, what is it now? It's almost 40,000 views, which is quite a large number of people that have actually seen this just in a single week, right? So in order to support this, we really wanted to have a system that customers could really quickly and easily deploy this. And not only deploy it using a really powerful template in an easy way, which I'll show you in a minute, but also be able to adapt to it so that they can use their own data within these services. And so why don't I just give a quick walkthrough of the demo so you can kind of get an idea of the context of what it does, and then I'll show you some of the code behind it, including the template. So as I mentioned, the goal was that we wanted to let companies say, I have my own data, my own PDFs, Office documents, whatever it might be. And I wanted to be able to search over that and kind of chat through it in that type of an experience. So this is the web app, including all the services, fully deployed using AZD. And you can see I can ask questions like, if I had a company that had all kinds of HR content, I could say, what's included in my health plan, right? You can imagine in your company, I wanted to ask that question. So this is actually using Azure Cognitive Search to find potentially relevant information, which is then tied to Azure OpenAI to actually provide that type of an interaction. And the cool thing, what I think is kind of cool, is that what I can do is I can actually validate, like this gives me very accurate information, and I can see the citation to kind of learn more and see how it works. I can even, in the idea of ChatGPT, I can say, does my plan cover my exams, right? And you'll notice the cool part about ChatGPT is that you can pass context and memory. even though I didn't mention my plan, up here in my conversation, I did mention it, so you can kind of continue to iterate. So it allows organizations to use their data to actually build out that type of an experience. You can even do things like, let's say I wanted to ask the question in Spanish. Let me I actually previously copied this. Let me just paste it in. And you can see here, I'm asking the exact same question in Spanish. And you'll notice it answers the question in Spanish, even though in the content it's all in English. So all of that is really powerful because OpenAI has this ability to really adapt to different needs and concerns of what you might want to enable. So let me show you how we did all this. And Savannah, I think you're going to include a link if anyone wants to see this in more detail afterwards. But this is the repository, the GitHub repository that we built, and as you can see, it's growing pretty well. Number of stars just in a week, it's doing pretty well. But you'll notice here we actually have the Azure deployment, so we can actually see details around the template that we have, and with a very simple command. In fact, let me just go back so you can see it. You can see here in the instructions, all you need to do is you just need to run the azd command with this command here. In fact, let me just bring it over so you can see. I'm just going to run this. I'm actually not going to do the azd up. I'm just going to do an init on this template, and you can kind of see, just as Victor was showing with the previous template, how easy it is to do this. I can download all of the files that are important for this template. I can let it ask me the questions about where I want to deploy it. Let's call it Liam test, and the subscription, the region that I want to deploy it, and done. That's literally all that I would have needed to do. If I did azd up, it would have actually gone through the process of actually deploying it. So this has really made it really easy for our customers and even our field people to actually reproduce this, so that it doesn't matter if you're using the fictitious HR content like we have or your own content. It makes it really easy to build from. So really looking forward to growing this. So once again, Savannah, Grace, Victor, thanks for having me on this. It's been great.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to see like where this goes and like how people leverage this template, because I think it's both like right now super relevant. You know, everyone's really amped up about ChatGPT, but also it's like the demo that you have is so powerful, especially with that cross language kind of that capability. I think that's super interesting. Yeah. Hopefully more partnerships in the future too, right? Yeah. So I have the link on the screen. Definitely check it out. If you have feedback, I'm sure Liam and his team would love to hear from you. But yeah, awesome. Okay. Any questions about that template from folks in the chat? Once, twice. All right. Thanks so much, Liam.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later. Cool. I think that's like a pretty exciting template.
Yeah, I think so. I'm excited to see how people use it.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. We also, actually, I'll hand this to Grace. I'll let Grace go over the last slides.
Okay. Yeah. We just wanted to thank our community contributors again. Anthony Shaw, who I can't remember. I think we also thanked him last month too. So really cranking stuff out. Pamela Fox, again, she was like a machine last month, and again with another contribution for APIM and app service. And then Raphael, who contributed a new template using Azure Service Bus to the Dataverse environment. So another cool template, which you can, I believe that one's already been added to our template gallery on Awesome ACD. So friendly reminder, a little plug, go check out all the templates we have available there. But again, thank you to all these community contributors, and you yourself watching this call could be one of these community contributors too.
Yeah, and I think I also think that the ChatGPT sample is also now on the Awesome AZD website. So lots of good stuff happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And then again, just our standard kind of call for feedback. you can sign up for user research opportunities using that link on the slide. And then also, we're always welcoming feedback on our GitHub repo. Also on AwesomeAZD, which is a separate repo, but always feel free to file issues there, and maybe even pick up some issues if you're feeling adventurous and want to try to help with a bug fix or even like a feature contribution. It's always open.
Yes, we would love that. So one other plug I want to make before we jump into kind of the open roundtable, we'll bring some folks back on the call. There is an Azure Developers.net Day coming up on the 5th of April. I will be presenting there, probably in a morning slot, still kind of sorting that out. But we'll be showing off like .NET and AZD. So if you're interested in catching that, definitely, or other talks that are happening that day, definitely check out .NET Day on the 5th. Lots of, I know they already have some of the stuff on the roster of talks, and it looks really awesome. So just wanted to plug that there as well for my .NET friends. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the community call. I feel like we had a lot of big features, but we kind of blew through them. So if folks have questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, whatever, I'm going to bring some folks back. And you can ask us whatever you want. I mean, maybe not whatever you want, but within reason. But yeah, if you have questions for any of us, let us know. I was really excited for this month's release. I feel like we've been kind of working on the Kubernetes stuff and some of the VS Code updates for a long while. So it was nice to have those ship. Any questions? If not, then you know where to find us. You can come say hopefully nice things to us on GitHub or on Twitter. Lots of us are on Twitter as well. Issues, discussions, whatever. But yeah, otherwise we might wrap early if there's Haley is stoked for .NET Day. I'm pretty excited about it too. There are some really, really good talks, I think, in the works from there's static web app talks, there's language talks, lots of really good stuff happening. All right. I'm going to give it I think there's I said this maybe last community call, but my old team used to have a 12-second rule where you'd wait 12 seconds for someone to ask a question. If there were no questions, that there weren't any questions. So, we'll give it a couple more seconds. Otherwise, it'll be good to see you all at the next community call at the beginning of April. Okay. I think that's it. All right. Well, thanks for joining, friends. Grace and I will be back next month. We might have, who knows, Victor, Liam, Wallace might be back. We don't know yet. Otherwise, you might meet some new AZD friends. Cool. All right. Thanks, folks. Talk to y'all later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.